How to improve your English. Sarah often stared at her English textbooks, a deep sigh escaping her lips. She longed for fluency, to express her thoughts effortlessly, but frustration was a constant companion. Every attempt felt like navigating a dense fog, words elusive, grammar rules a perplexing maze. Why did improvement seem so far away, a distant dream always just beyond her grasp? She felt truly stuck. The mirror reflected a worried face. "Why do I always make mistakes?" she whispered aloud, the question a familiar echo in her quiet room. Even after years of studying, simple sentences tripped her tongue. It was disheartening, eroding her confidence with every misspoken word. She wondered if some secret, vital ingredient was missing from her learning recipe. Her biggest challenge was the gap between thought and speech. Her native language dominated her mind, forcing a laborious, word-by-word translation process. This mental gymnastics slowed her down considerably. How could one possibly think directly in English when the urge to translate was so overwhelmingly strong, a deeply ingrained habit? It seemed impossible. Remembering new vocabulary felt like a leaky bucket, words slipping away as quickly as they were poured in. She scribbled lists, used flashcards, but retention remained stubbornly low. Days later, a newly learned word would vanish without a trace. This constant forgetting made building a strong vocabulary base feel like an endless, futile struggle. Listening to English speakers often left her feeling overwhelmed. The speed, the varied accents, the idiomatic expressions, it all blended into an unintelligible blur. While she understood individual words sometimes, grasping the full meaning of a conversation felt like an insurmountable hurdle. It was like listening to a complex, foreign melody. She tried different methods for learning words, from rote memorization to apps, but nothing seemed to stick permanently. The sheer volume of new vocabulary was daunting. Each topic introduced dozens of new terms, and keeping them all straight, ready for recall, felt like an impossible task. Her word list grew longer, her memory weaker. Talking in English was the scariest part. The fear of making a fool of herself paralyzed her tongue. Even when she knew the words, the anxiety of speaking them aloud, of facing potential judgment, was immense. This self-consciousness created a vicious cycle, limiting her practice and deepening her fear of conversation. Her tutor, Mr. Harrison, a kindly old man with sparkling eyes, noticed her distress. "Sarah," he began gently, "your biggest obstacle isn't a lack of knowledge, but a fear of imperfection. Mistakes are not failures, they are signposts guiding you forward. Embrace them, for they are your greatest teachers, pointing to areas for growth." To improve your English, he explained, you must first shift your mindset. See errors not as blunders, but as essential feedback. Every time you stumble, you learn where the path needs reinforcing. This perspective frees you to experiment, to take risks, which is crucial for genuine language acquisition and progress. Why do you always make mistakes? He echoed her earlier question. Because you are trying. Because you are pushing your boundaries. A person who makes no mistakes in English simply isn't trying hard enough to use it in new and challenging contexts. Your mistakes are proof of effort, a badge of courage, Sarah. He then spoke about thinking. To truly speak fluently, you must stop translating. Start thinking directly in English. Begin with simple thoughts. I am hungry, it is raining. Describe objects around you mentally in English. This rewires your brain, building direct connections between concepts and English words, bypassing your native tongue's filter. This process takes time and conscious effort, Mr. Harrison warned. But consistency is key. Whenever you catch yourself translating, consciously switch to English thought. Even if it's just basic descriptions or internal monologue, every small attempt strengthens this new neural pathway, making it more natural for you. Regarding remembering words, he continued, context is everything. Don't just memorize isolated words. Learn them in sentences, in phrases, in stories. Connect them to images, to emotions, to experiences. The more vivid and personal the connection, the stronger the memory becomes, making recall much easier. He suggested active recall techniques. After learning a new word, try to use it within the next hour, then again in a day, then a week. Spaced repetition systems are fantastic for this, prompting you right before you're about to forget. This strategic revisiting solidifies words in your long-term memory effectively. Listen English constantly, he advised, but listen actively. Don't just hear, try to understand. Start with content slightly above your current level, challenging but not overwhelming. Podcasts, audiobooks, YouTube channels relevant to your interests can be incredibly engaging tools for immersive listening practice daily. Focus on understanding the main ideas first, he elaborated. Don't panic if you miss individual words. Over time, your ear will attune to the rhythm, intonation, and common patterns. Consistency in listening trains your brain to process English faster, improving both comprehension and your own pronunciation habits effectively. When it comes to learning words, Mr. Harrison reiterated, make it a multi-sensory experience. See the word, say it aloud, write it down, use it in a sentence. Create mental images for abstract concepts. This multimodal approach engages different parts of your brain, cementing the vocabulary more securely in your memory. Don't just collect words, he cautioned. Actively own them. Use them in your writing, try them out in your conversations. The transition from passive knowledge, recognizing a word, to active knowledge, being able to use it, is crucial. Repetition in various contexts transforms new words into familiar tools. How to talk in English, he smiled. Just talk. Start small. Describe your day to yourself in English. Find a language exchange partner. Join an online conversation group. The goal isn't perfection, but communication. Embrace the awkwardness, the hesitations, they are part of the learning journey, essential steps forward. Focus on getting your message across, even with limited vocabulary, he urged. Clarity over complexity. Don't censor yourself for fear of mistakes. The more you speak, the more comfortable you become. Each spoken sentence, however simple, builds confidence and reinforces your understanding of spoken patterns naturally. And why reading is important, he asked rhetorically. Reading exposes you to natural English structures, varied vocabulary, and different writing styles. It unconsciously improves your grammar and syntax. You absorb correct sentence patterns without explicitly studying rules, a powerful, subconscious learning process indeed. Why you must read English, he emphasized, is because it provides endless exposure to the language in a low-pressure environment. Unlike speaking, you can take your time, reread sentences, look up words. It builds your passive vocabulary, which then gradually becomes active through consistent exposure and application. Sarah started implementing Mr. Harrison's advice. She bought a small notebook for new words, writing down sentences where they appeared. Instead of translating, she tried to visualize concepts directly in English. The process felt slow at first, almost painfully deliberate, but she persisted with the new method. She began describing her daily routine silently in English as she dressed. I am putting on my blue shirt. The sky is cloudy today. Simple phrases, but they forced her brain to operate differently. This internal monologue, though quiet, was a significant shift, laying the groundwork for fluent thought processes. For vocabulary, she created flashcards with images and example sentences. She used an app that scheduled review times for her, ensuring she revisited words just before she might forget them. This spaced repetition technique finally helped words stick, moving them from short-term to long-term memory storage. Listening became an active pursuit. She started with beginner-friendly podcasts on topics she enjoyed, focusing on understanding the general gist. Gradually, she increased the difficulty, exposing herself to more complex conversations. Her ear slowly began to distinguish individual words and phrases more clearly now. She joined an online English conversation group. Her first few sessions were terrifying. Her voice trembled, and she stumbled over simple phrases. But she reminded herself of Mr. Harrison's words, "Mistakes are signposts." Each awkward silence, each mispronounced word, became a valuable learning moment for her. Her reading habits also changed dramatically. She started with graded readers, then moved to simple English novels in genres she liked. She didn't look up every single word, instead trying to infer meaning from context, a truly liberating shift in her reading approach and mindset. Reading became enjoyable, not a chore. She discovered new authors and fascinating topics. The more she read, the more familiar grammar structures became. She started noticing how sentences were constructed, how ideas flowed, an intuitive understanding blossoming within her mind. The combination of consistent listening, targeted vocabulary review, and immersive reading began to weave its magic. She noticed herself thinking in English more frequently, especially when engaged with English content. The internal translator was slowly, steadily fading away into the background. Her speaking improved too. The initial fear didn't vanish overnight, but it lessened with each conversation. She found herself able to articulate thoughts more quickly, to respond more naturally. The words, once elusive, were now bubbling closer to the surface, ready for expression whenever needed. One day, during a video call with her group, she found herself participating actively, expressing opinions without conscious translation. A wave of exhilaration washed over her. It wasn't perfect, but it was fluid, spontaneous. This moment was a powerful testament to her dedication and progress. She realized that the biggest barrier had indeed been her own self-doubt and fear of imperfection. By reframing mistakes as opportunities, she had unlocked her true learning potential. The journey was not about avoiding errors, but about learning from them gracefully and continuously moving forward. Her vocabulary retention soared. She could now recall words effortlessly in conversation, words that once seemed impossible to remember. The mental connections formed through contextual learning and spaced repetition had made a significant difference to her long-term vocabulary acquisition. Listening to podcasts no longer felt like a struggle. She could follow complex discussions, grasp nuances, and even appreciate different accents. Her comprehension had sharpened immensely, making English media a source of enjoyment rather than a confusing cacophony of sound and meaning. Reading became her sanctuary. She devoured books, articles, and online forums, soaking in the language. This constant exposure broadened her understanding of English culture and expression, enriching her fluency journey far beyond mere grammar rules and vocabulary lists. The fear of speaking, once a crippling force, had transformed into a healthy nervousness, a sign that she was challenging herself. She sought out more opportunities to speak, eager to test her growing abilities and refine her communication skills with confidence. Sarah understood now that learning English was a marathon, not a sprint. There would be good days and bad days, plateaus and surges. But consistency, patience, and a positive mindset were the unwavering pillars supporting her continuous linguistic growth. She started helping others in her group, sharing Mr. Harrison's wisdom. "Don't be afraid of mistakes," she would advise. "They are your compass. Every time you stumble, you are closer to finding your way. Embrace the journey, and celebrate every small victory you achieve." The "why do I always make mistakes" question, she explained, is precisely because you are actively engaging with the language. It means you are pushing your boundaries, exploring new territory. No mistakes would mean no real progress, simply staying within your comfort zone. On thinking and speaking, she elaborated, start small. Describe your morning coffee in English to yourself. Narrate your walk. These internal conversations build the muscle for direct English thought, making external speaking a more natural extension of your mind and ideas. To remember words, she taught, create stories with them. Visualize the word in action. Associate it with something funny or memorable. The more bizarre or personal the connection, the stronger the recall will be. Make learning an adventure, not a chore. Listen English, she emphasized, not just passively. Engage. Try to summarize what you heard, even if it's just a few sentences. Repeat phrases you like. Mimic the intonation. This active listening transforms input into output readiness for your own expressive voice. How to learn words effectively, she queried. Beyond context and active recall, make them personal. Use new words to describe your feelings, your experiences. When you integrate words into your personal narrative, they become part of you, unforgettable in meaning. How to talk in English, she smiled. Take the pressure off. Focus on conveying your message, not on perfect grammar. Simple, clear communication is far more effective than complex, error-ridden sentences. Build confidence with simple wins, and complexity will follow naturally. Why reading is important, she shared, is its incredible power to build intuition. You start feeling what sounds right, even if you can't articulate the grammar rule. It's like learning to ride a bike. You don't need physics, just practice and immersion in the process. Why you must read English daily if possible, she concluded, is because it's the most scalable and accessible way to immerse yourself. You control the pace, the topic, the difficulty. It's your personal language lab, open 24/7, providing endless learning opportunities. Sarah's transformation was evident not just in her fluency but in her newfound confidence. She no longer shied away from conversations. Instead, she actively sought them out. The journey from frustrated learner to confident communicator was inspiring to witness daily. She continued to read widely, listen intently, and speak whenever opportunity arose. Her English wasn't perfect, she knew, but it was effective, expressive, and constantly improving. The joy of genuine communication outweighed any lingering fear of making a minor error. Her story became a beacon for others struggling, a living proof that consistent effort and a changed perspective could truly unlock linguistic potential. She was no longer just learning English, she was living in English, thriving within its rich linguistic tapestry. Every mistake was a lesson learned, every forgotten word a reminder to revisit and reinforce. The cyclical nature of language acquisition, she discovered, was not a setback but an inherent part of the growth process, a valuable and necessary step. She encouraged everyone to find their own methods, to personalize the learning journey. What worked for her might not be universal, but the core principles of immersion, active practice, and a positive attitude remained universally applicable to all learners. Her initial question, "Why do I always make mistakes?" had evolved into a deeper understanding, "Because I'm growing." This fundamental shift in perception empowered her, turning previous frustrations into fuel for continuous improvement and progress. The fear of talking, once debilitating, had been replaced by genuine excitement for connection. English was no longer just a subject but a tool for building bridges, sharing ideas, and exploring the world from a new and enriching perspective. So, if you're struggling, remember Sarah's journey. Embrace your mistakes, think in English, immerse yourself, read voraciously, and speak fearlessly. Your fluent English future awaits, patiently built one consistent, brave step at a time, just for you.